Good morning. I'm Roxie Herbekian, and I'm the president of Unite Here Local 7. We welcome you all here today. We're joined by employees who work at the Hyatt Regency Baltimore, and also Ernie Grecco from the Baltimore Central Labor Council, Tessa Aston-Hill from the NAACP. We've got a number of members of the clergy here, Father Ty Hullinger from St. Anthony's of Padua, and also Father Roger Powell from Light Street Presbyterian, Father Besel from St. Mary's. And you're going to hear today from workers and from community leaders. We're here today because the federal government is prosecuting Hyatt for violating workers' rights to organize. It's a violation of the National Labor Relations Act. The first person you're going to hear from is Mike Jones, who is a member of the Union Organizing Committee, a utility worker who's been terminated from the Hyatt. Let's welcome Mike.
I feel as though that the reason why I'm standing up to fight for a union is because this city forgot its union history. This city forgot its blue-collar history as well. We used to have jobs such as Sparrows Point, Bethlehem Steel, McCormick Spices, and just to name a few. When those jobs left, the Hyatt was supposed to be our new future of the economy. And they promised that family. And I feel as though that promise has been broken. Because they promised us that we would have more better jobs, and they promised that the jobs would be safe. Well, to put this in my own words, they lied to us for the longest time. And I'm basically standing up because when I started here in 2002, we used to have a full staff of 32 people in my department, which is stewarding and dishwashing. Now it's just down to only 6 of us. And when it came down to only 6 of us, they sometimes have me doing the work of 2 to 3 people. I have a friend of mine who is a temp, who sometimes he would put in application after application after application. But they would deny it and lie and say that you'll promise a better future here at the Hyatt, only to find out that he didn't have no position, and he didn't even have no benefits, and he only worked here for 5 years. And he's been a temp for 5 years. Now, me and my friends, we decided to stand up because we didn't like this treatment that the Hyatt was doing to us. We didn't like the fact that they was denying us better pay, that better health insurance, and everything. So during that time when I decided to stand for the fight for what I believe in, they fired me within the span of 2 weeks of that. Even the time when we stood up to fight for what we believe in, when we was leafing in. When me and a friend of mine, we was leafing in, and our security guard, who we was good friends with for years, he said that he would call the police on us if we don't get off the private property, even though this is our property, because we work here. And we worked here for so many years that this is supposed to be our family. And now, I found myself still fighting for what I believe in, even though I live on a block where when I come out my house every day, I'm seeing young kids coming from the district courthouse because they feel as though there's no decent jobs out here that a place like the Hyatt should be giving them. When I recently found out about this complaint from the federal government, it made me excited and made me happy. And I almost brought a tear to my eye, because it shows that even though the Hyatt thought they could fire me and they thought that they can just bully us and push us away, we're still going to stay here and fight, and we're still going to fight for what we believe in.
Just to let you all know, I do enjoy working here. I'm passionate about hospitality. I love working with my employees, my co-workers. I love working and accommodating the guests, meeting new people just to see a smile on their face. But what I don't like is the treatment that my co-workers and I are receiving. It bothers me to see some of the co-workers who has to work so many hours and get maybe 4 to 5 hours of rest just to come back in and do this type of service all over again, just to have a decent pay to go home and pay for their bills and help their children. To see some of the co-workers, working 2 jobs or doing the job of 2 or 3 people, it's so unfair. But we wonder why there are so many people unemployed, and the unemployment rate just rising, and it doesn't make any sense because the jobs are here. The jobs are in these huge corporations, but they're making it so easy for them not to have to spend so much money by, having contract workers come in. I mean, there's contract workers that have been working here for so many years, but yet they don't have the opportunity to be full-time employed. They don't have the opportunity to have benefits. Some of them could be sick and just call out one day, but because they're contract workers, the corporation can just say, I don't want you to come back at all because they just called out for one day. It's unfair. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I feel like if we don't do something about this now, what are our futures going to look like? What are the generations to come going to look like? The crime rates are high. The education system is becoming far much worse even since I've graduated high school. But I strongly believe that, good jobs, great health care, job security is what's going to keep us, and keep this city to be a bright city, to be, a city that people, we have people coming outside, tourists, and they say Baltimore City is so beautiful. Yes, it is beautiful, but we still need to go inside the cities and see the homes that are just torn down and so many people living on the streets. Job security, good jobs is what makes the difference here in the city. And I believe Hyatt, this corporation, is just a small portion of what's holding us down and keeping us back of what we should be. Since I've started fighting, this corporation has done so much. They tried to bribe some of the employees. It's great. It's beautiful. They got $1 and $2 raises, but it wasn't enough to hold us back. We continued to fight, and their backs were against the wall. They didn't know what to do, so they started writing us up for being 1 minute late. And, we got so many complaints. We did delegations. We went into the offices, and they just was like, they're not giving up. They're still fighting. You can see it on our managers' faces. So several of our employees, those who are on the union committee, was fired, and it hurt us. It made us feel a little shook up a little bit, but we came together and we continue to fight even stronger. And now these charges are here, and it's a beautiful thing because now we're taking the mask off of the Hyatt Corporation's face and we're seeing them for who they really are. And it's time that we just continue to fight and show the corporation, show the city, show our employees, show our fellow co-workers that we will not stand for anything and that we will fight until we get what we deserve. Excellent. Thank you.
We're here, members of the faith community, to stand with these brothers and sisters of ours. Last month, myself and 5 other community leaders met with the general manager of this Hyatt Regency in Baltimore. At that time, she told us the hotel management was being completely neutral in regards to its employees' decision on union representation. Well, we're here because this complaint issued by the National Labor Relations Board reveals a much different scenario and environment here than what she described to us. Hyatt managers have sown the seeds of fear and intimidation by firing union activists and by threatening employees for engaging in union activity. How can employees exercise their fundamental human rights in this kind of an environment? For well over 120 years, in my own Catholic Church perspective, from Pope Leo XIII in 1891 to today, to Pope Benedict XVI, our Catholic Church speaks out clearly in support of the right of all workers to form unions. This right is a natural, fundamental human right based in the human right to associate or to assemble. Our own American bishops said in their pastoral letter on the economy in 1986, this document was called Economic Justice for All. Our American bishops said, the Church fully supports the rights of workers to form unions or other associations to secure their rights to fair wages and fair working conditions. They quoted Pope John Paul II, who said, the experience of history teaches us that organizations of this type are an indispensable element of social life. John Paul II knew history. Unfortunately, we're here because historically his words prove true. In every generation, workers need to exercise their right to form unions. The Catholic bishops said something further, the American bishops in Economic Justice for All. They continue to say, no one may deny the right to organize without attacking human dignity itself. So let me say that again. No one may deny the right to organize without attacking human dignity itself. Therefore, we firmly oppose organized efforts, such as those regrettably now seen in this country, to break existing unions and prevent workers from organizing. My friends, today, leaders of Baltimore's diverse faith communities are standing in support and solidarity of our brothers and sisters in this workplace, at this Hyatt, who seek to protect and defend their basic human right to organize, and to do so in an environment free of hostility, free of fear, free of intimidation. As the church said in 1986, so it says today in 2012, when you deny the right to organize, you attack human dignity itself, and the church will be on the side of the workers in that attack each and every time. My friends, I'm proud to be here today to stand with these brothers and sisters. You heard 2 stories today. I'm sure there are many more stories that could be told. The church will continue to be with them as they continue to seek their rights and to exercise their rights in this matter. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you, Father Ty. We're very proud in Baltimore to be the home of the very first NAACP chapter here in Baltimore City, and we have an excellent leader of that chapter. She's here with us. She's been here with the workers on delegations and picket lines. We're very proud she's with us today. President of Baltimore City NAACP, Tessa Hill-Aston.
Thank you. As Roxie said, I am very honored as the president of Baltimore City to be here with you. Number one, everybody knows or should know that NAACP and unions are in partnership. We've been in partnership as long as the NAACP has existed, and we will stand always with union. I've had the honor to be here with all of you during the summer when we came here to meet with management and stood out here in picket, and I was hoping and praying that that would resolve the issue. Also at that time, the NAACP Baltimore City was planning an event, and we had already we agreed to have our event here in October, which we did hold, and some of you were there. It was a wonderful event because of good service of the employees. Like Regina was in the room, and she came over to give me a hug as she was serving the tables, and I was honored to be there at my own event and know the employees, and she came over happily smiling and serving the guests. So the Hyatt does do good service, but it does good service because of the employees that are standing out here that work hard. So the NAACP supports what you're doing, and we will stand with you through this whole thing. The other thing, let me put a personal note. My background as a teenager, my first job was at a hotel. I worked, some of you too young and some of the older ones like Ernie will remember, but I worked, love you Ernie, I worked at the Emerson Hotel, was at the corner of Charles and Calvert in Baltimore. I worked there in the 10th grade during the summer. I worked there in the 11th grade, 12th grade, and the first year of college. I did such a good job as a teenager working there. They called me back for special events. They called me back to work on extra things that went on. So my experience in hotel work and waiting tables is a good experience. I was living in my mother's house. She was taking care of me. So it was an experience for me to have a job to earn money. But if I was working here now in a hotel as a wife and as a mother with children, I would need the benefits. I would need to be treated fairly, that I would have enough rest to come back and do the things that I need to do at home and at work. So in this day, an economy is not like it was for me in the 60s. A lot of people of all ages are working here as a career, as a life, to take care of their homes and their families. So it is a job that needs to be honored and respected. When people come to the harbor as tourists or either local Baltimoreans, when they come and walk up down the street and people are getting off from work from the Hyatt, they should see happy people and not people complaining that they weren't treated fairly, because the Hyatt and any place of service wants the tourists and customers to be treated with a smile. And you can't smile every day when people are not treating you fair, because you're miserable, because you know the end of the week that you're not getting justice with your pay and the treatment. So it's totally unfair, and I would never, ever as the NAACP president, sign a contract to use any hotel without the permission of the unions.
Thank you, Tessa, for reminding me about the Emerson Hotel. Yeah, I do remember it. In fact, my high school prom was right at the Emerson Hotel. In the bottom floor, they had a room called the Tiki Room. And right across the street, there was another hotel that many of you probably may not remember, some of you may, was the Lord Baltimore Hotel. Both of them places were unionized. Workers at those two hotels were union, and they had good jobs then. It's time these folks here at the Hyatt get off their duffs and treat workers with dignity and respect and have the union come in. These workers here are not asking for the moon. They're asking for a decent job, to have a say at their work site, that they can negotiate wages and benefits and so on, and working conditions. That's all they want. They're not looking for real high wages and so on. They're looking for competitive. And we want to bring the unions in this city support this cause real big, because a lot of our international unions that have conventions want to come here to Baltimore. They're not coming because the Hyatt won't organize, will not let the workers organize. We can bring a lot of business to the Hyatt Hotel, but we're not. We're going to go to the unionized hotels in the city of Baltimore. We go back with this fight for many, many years. I remember as a young man, I had a 34-inch waist then, I don't understand. I worked with the guy that had my job. His name was Tom Bradley. And he had an agreement with the management of the Hyatt Hotel that they would testify at City Hall to get the resources, the money needed to build this place. And the agreement was one thing: do not run an anti-union campaign. Let the employees have their choice of joining the union or not. They broke that agreement. They hired one of the most anti-union law firms, not only in this city, but one of the most anti-union law firms in the country, and they ran a total non-union campaign. They scared the hell out of the employees there, and we lost the election that was held, and that's what's happening in there right now. We had these two courageous workers that can speak up, and there's other people that want to join the union, but there's folks down there that are scared. They're afraid of losing their jobs. The brother talked about the job situation in our city and in our state is bad, but it's on the move. We're going to, with the election that we had just last week, we feel that there's going to be a lot of good jobs created in this area. With question 7 being passed, we were 100% in favor of that. We are going to get some good union jobs, but right now it's time that the Hyatt stop treating these workers the way they do and let them sign the cards. If they get enough cards to go with the union, that's the way it should be, and we will in turn bring our business. Unions will bring our business to this place. We're not going to bring it until the workers there are unionized. Thank you all very much.
We're here today on behalf of the Catholic Church, standing as representatives of the church, to be with our brothers and sisters here who are seeking to exert their natural human right to form an association, to form a union, if that be their desire, but to have a fair, neutral process that is not interfered with. We're here today because some workers have been intimidated. A climate of hostility and fear exists here at this Hyatt, and we're standing here with the workers who have brought charges and complaints before the National Labor Relations Board, and we're happy today that the National Labor Relations Board is moving forward with indictments about those, and now it's going to be Hyatt's turn to answer the serious questions of what kind of climate do they create for their workers when their workers have a natural right. The church, our Catholic Church, teaches that workers have a natural right to form unions and associations for just and living wages and for safe and good working conditions. And so when the workers here are trying that, they have to be able to do that in an environment that is free from intimidation and free from fear. And so we're here, Father Patrick and myself, as representatives of the church, to stand with our brothers and sisters, encouraging them with our faith that a fair process for all workers brings about fair equity for all people.
And the labor priest movement has a long tradition in Catholic priests, and our tradition of supporting workers began with the immigrant workers that were Catholics that came to our country early here in Baltimore with Cardinal Gibbons. And we've always stood with workers, their inherent right to organize themselves, to protect themselves, to be able to work with a sense of dignity and respect. Our understanding of the dignity of the human person created in the image and likeness of God is at the center of that. And we stand here in full support of the workers, especially today when we have such a statement coming out at this press conference that validates what these workers have been saying for such a long time, that we've always believed that there's serious abuses to the human dignity, to their right as workers, and we're here to support them in all that we can with the authority and weight of the Catholic Church behind us, and we think we can contribute to this, and we want to keep this whole tradition of the labor priest moving forward and show our support for our workers.
So why did you decide to start fighting?
I decided to start fighting because I don't feel that the jobs that the Hyatt is offering are good for me and are good for the city. In my department, there's 6 of us working. When my coworkers say that 10 years ago there was about 15 people in our department, and that's wrong. That's wrong for us because like this past week I just been running crazy trying to set up for all these groups, and it's just too much work for us. And then on top of that, it's not good for the city because that's 15 jobs that people could have in this city. And then like you look around, there's so much unemployment, and then this is why the Hyatt is why. Like there were probably 50 temps in here working this weekend with this big group, and it's stressful for us because it makes the work harder on us because they don't know where to go, and it's not good for the city because these jobs are minimum wage jobs that have no benefits, and people can be. They don't even have to be fired. The company can just say, "I don't want you back," and people can't get unemployment, and that's not good for the city. So that's why I'm fighting.
And what have you learned through this fight?
I guess the one thing I've learned is that if you stand up and fight, and when people stand up and fight, you can win and things get better. And I've seen that in so many ways. I've seen that with us and on the committee that they tried writing us all up for being 1 minute late, and we didn't let them do that. We stood up and we fought back against that. We went in, we had delegations, and we pushed them back, and nobody ever thought that would happen. Everybody believed, a lot of my coworkers believe that if you stand up to the Hyatt, you'll just get kicked out. And they've tried that, but it hasn't worked, and we're still fighting.
What kind of things have you won since you started fighting?
So one thing that me and a couple of my coworkers won towards the beginning was that we our start time was kind of all over the place. We would come in at 4 or 5, 6 o'clock sometimes, and so we went to our boss and we said, "This is hard on our lives, on our schedule. We want to come in at 3 o'clock." And so since then we've been coming in at 3 o'clock, and so we won that. They also came in and gave us big raises after we went public. I think to try and buy people off, but like I see that as like we fought and we won those races because they had been saying for years and years that they did not have the money to pay anybody, and then we start marching and we start talking to our coworkers and fighting, and all of a sudden they come out of their pocket with tons of money, and that shows how much money they have, and it also shows what happens when you stand up and fight, that you can win things.
I think for me right now, the vision is very simple, and it's just that workers be treated with respect, get a just wage, able to come to work without a sense of fear, that they're not vulnerable, trying to fight those that hold the authority, whether or not they keep their jobs, trying to work for justice in that light, worried about if they're going to lose their jobs or not, having to worry about the stress of coming to work and working for justice. And so I think right now, at least from my personal vision, is relatively simple. I just want respect and dignity for workers here at Hyatt, and for the Hyatt to live up to a standard of ethic that respects the dignity of the human person. Issues in terms of management and labor and ownership of that, I think maybe come at a later time. But I think right now the needs and the concerns are far more fundamental before we get to that. And that is respect, who we see as the living Christ living in every person, and we expect every person to be treated just as Christ himself should be treated.
I would just agree with what my brother priest, Father Patrick, has just said, in that right now the most important thing is that human dignity be reverenced and respected, and that can only be done when all sides, workers in management, corporations and unions, everybody, the church, treats one another with the dignity that they deserve. And human dignity, when it's supported and defended, it'll be known by the actions of people. And so when those actions are just and pure, there's no need to have days like today. When those actions are less than pure and less than just, then the church will be as it is, standing with people to assert their right.
I'm an organizer with Unite Here Local 7, and so since we've started publicly fighting the Hyatt, we've done leaflets outside the employee entrances, we've had multiple picket lines outside the Hyatt, today's press conference, we've had a prayer breakfast to communicate with clergy and religious leaders in the community about the conditions at the hotel, and we've met with neighborhood associations, we've met with religious organizations, and we will continue to fight until we beat the company. Whenever a worker anywhere in the world takes a stand for their human rights and their human dignity, the church is always going to side with that from its deep, as Father Patrick said, it's from our theology that we believe every human person is created in the image and likeness of God, and with that comes a dignity that no one can take away. And then when that dignity is marred by scandal or war or suffering, the church is always there to help those whose dignity is being assaulted stand with confidence and with faith. That's the church being in solidarity with the worker. And so I think very much the church is still in solidarity with workers around the world. So wherever a worker struggles to have these human rights respected by corporations, by governments, by all of society, the church will be there with the worker. And that's what gives me faith and hope in our church as well, is that our church is very much in the modern world with the problems and yet also the graces and the hopes and the opportunities that the modern world provides. And I think there's no greater hope than when brothers and sisters stand next to one another in a common cause like this for justice. In many neighboring cities, for example, DC, Atlantic City, Philadelphia, the standards for hospitality workers are much, much higher than in Baltimore. Union housekeepers in DC make about $16 an hour with a pension fund, with affordable benefits, compared to roughly $8 an hour with no sick days, few or very expensive benefits that are provided to the temporary workers here. And I believe that Baltimore deserves the same standards for hospitality workers as hotel workers in any other city in this area. We gathered with, in part with the strength and support of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops, Father Cleet Kiley and many other priests, and so I think the conference has been very supportive of us, and we're encouraged by the fact that in the November meetings here, the bishops are once again taking up the issue of the economy and jobs and work, and hopefully can issue some new teaching and maybe new clarifications on this, as the economies and markets change somewhat over the course of years. It's good to see the church re-engaging at the national level as well, the issues of work and the dignity of workers.
At our conference in May in Chicago about the revitalizing this labor priest movement, we'd have representatives from the Catholic Conference come and speak to us. Felt very supported by members of our hierarchy who understand and know our tradition of supporting labor. So as the movement continues to grow and gain strength, we were looking forward to continued support and discussion with our leadership.
Not too long ago, I went to say Mass at St. Joseph's on Capitol Hill. You'll appreciate this. And there was a priest concelebrating with the pastor at the Mass right ahead of me. So we had a chance to meet in the sacristy. But before I even got to say my name or what I did, he introduced himself. He was the dean of a school of theology. He said, "I'm from Michigan, the state that was almost bankrupted by all those unions." Oh, he just kind of went into this monologue about labor unions and how they were bankrupting the church. And, we don't really, he said, unions are really passé. Now, this is the dean of a school of theology. I finally put my hand up. I said, "I need to stop you. My name is Cleet Kiley. I work for a union, and you couldn't be more wrong. And our Catholic social teaching doesn't say that anywhere or at all. And so we had to kind of talk about that, you know?
We were invited to a conference in May of this year in Chicago by Father Cleet Kiley. And so this is a very new movement, especially here in Baltimore. So right now there's a small core group of guys that have been involved, some more than others. Ty's been the most involved and very committed to the issue. And so this is really just a movement that's gaining strength again. And so we're trying to shore up some support for that.
And we're beginning to have discussions among our brother priests about where we can all be as far as being pre-supportive of labor, reconnecting with the great tradition of our Catholic Church, and bringing that tradition forward to new generations of priests. We see that as an opportunity now to be in dialogue and just discussion with our brother priests about what we can do in the future. And so we're getting together. We're also working with organizations like Interfaith Worker Justice here in Baltimore, a chapter's developing, and hopefully that will also be a way we can bring more priests and clergy together to support workers and the right to fair work and fair pay. I'm from Central Illinois, but I moved to Baltimore myself as a worker, and it was when I was working as a landscape architect here in the city of Baltimore. I worked, my office was next door to the Franciscan Center, an outreach center and soup kitchen, and I saw the needs of the poor of Baltimore, and my vocation to priesthood was born out of wanting to do more for the poor, being in solidarity with the poor, in a spirit of prayer, in a spirit of action, in a spirit of cooperation, and so that's what led me into priesthood, and that was partly what sustains me as well. So it's a great opportunity and privilege to be able to pray with all people, but especially with the poor, the working class, and to pray at the altar for justice for all people, all of God's children.
I was a reservist, and I was an Army intelligence officer for a brief time, that's right. And served at a unit in Northern Virginia for a few years before I entered the seminary. Then I left the military, Army Reserves, yeah.
This past week, I wrote a letter to the President of the United States to send no more arms to this country. They are only being used to kill our people.
I think my vocation to sermon started when I watched the movie Romero about Archbishop Oscar Romero from El Salvador, and getting a greater interest in issues of justice within the church. How issues of justice and care for people is tied to our life of prayer and sacramental life. How it's one vision for the common good of humanity, and I wanted to be a part of that. And I felt that the Lord was calling me to commit my life to it. So I just kind of listened to Jesus, and this is where he brought me, and brought me even here today with my friend Father Ty. I think for us he was a model of what a priest should be. He was a man of prayer, a man committed his life to the church and our traditions and our disciplines. And part of those traditions and disciplines is a radical care and love for the poor, especially the poorest and most vulnerable among us. And doing that in a spirit of love and of charity. And I think represents to us what the fullness of a priest is and should be. And ultimately, he gave his life for that and gave it willingly, just as Jesus did, who we're modeling our lives on, hopefully as best we can as well. And so I think for us, he is certainly a model for us to live our lives with. And his conversion as well, he was open to the movement of the Holy Spirit in his life. And it took him to somewhere he may not have been ready to go. But he confronted fear, he confronted resistance, and even from within his own friends and within his own church. But he remained faithful to the gospel, and he died a man of extreme integrity and a model to what we believe a priest should be.
Yo he recibido en esta semana acusaciones de los dos extremos, de la extrema derecha porque soy comunista, y de la extrema izquierda porque ya me estoy haciendo de derecha. Yo no estoy ni de derecha ni de izquierda, estoy tratando de ser fiel a la palabra que el Señor me manda a predicar, al mensaje que no se puede alterar, al que a unos y a otros les dice lo bueno que hacen y las injusticias que cometen.
I often know him as the one who was the voice for the voiceless, But before Archbishop Romero could be the voice for the voiceless, he himself had to listen to the voice of Christ. And again, as has been said, his own conversion to going places where he probably thought he wouldn't go and being a part of movements he maybe thought he would never be a part of. Archbishop Romero, his heart was opened by hearing the voice of Christ speak to his brothers and sisters that he met on the streets every day. And I think that's the example he gives to us again, and he will give to every generation of Catholics, that when we listen to the voice of Christ, Christ will lead us to our brother and our sister, and they won't be any farther from us than on our own city streets and neighborhoods.